Oh, today I felt completely bored about what I was doing on TV. So I decided to realize what is going on with Looney Tunes cartoons coming to an end this year. I'm guessing the writers have lost their minds in running out of their ideas. And I'm going to talk about a very infamous cartoon that the younger fans would like, but the grown-ups wouldn't. I know it's blatant how Space Jam: A New Legacy came to be, but let's tackle this one that we're focusing on. I call this one Loonatics Unleashed. Basically, Loonatics Unleashed was basically some sort of a typical cartoon show, because this was a very interesting example of what made Kids Own Beast fall itself apart. From the moment on after I reviewed the Batman 2004, it's about time I'm reviewing Loonatics Unleashed to my own yard. As of development hell, I noticed that during production of the show, we originally had some sort of an interesting example of what this show could have looked like. According to what could have been, this was said to be based on your typical darker, edgier TMNT ripoff. But in this early version called the Loonatics, they look like totally different designs. For me, all five of them, well, let me just focus on all the five characters who were called Buzz Bunny, Maxima, Spaz, Slick, and Roadster. Eventually, it took a lot of backlash around the spring and summer of 2005 when CBS News and CNN have decided, ever since Looney Tunes rocketed to stardom in the 1920s, this is why it was part of the Kids Own Beast false glued. As a result of this concept, it was very different to Tiny Toons Adventures by Steven Spielberg. But I noticed that these designs caused some huge backlash, and it turned off many fans, and this is what the final product would become like. As I noticed that all of them being, they had to add Lexi and Danger at one point to spice up the creativity. As I noticed, this show has an interesting example of what I could see on the borderline. I am not going to waste any downtime in focusing on an interesting backstory. Well, the backstory is quite interesting. As I noticed that when I first saw Loonatics Unleashed, back around when I was a kid, back in 2006, when it originally aired in the UK on Toonami, I'm guessing it aired on Cartoon Network in the UK. So the plot had some sort of interesting connection. Well, what it all started back around the year 2772, a meteor struck the fictional city planet of Acmetropolis that knocked off the original axis. However, as the meteor that was supposed to destroy the planet, it takes an impact that sends out shockwaves that almost gets everyone killed. However, it gives up these supernatural cosmic edges from everyone thought they all died. For some reason, they were alive. As a result of the experimentation, all the six characters, being Ace, Lexi, Danger, Slam, Techie, and Rev, were all victims of being involved in this incident. As a result of this, the interesting concept of what makes the cartoon so special is that it sort of reminds me of that one cartoon called Futurama. If you combine it with Tron Legacy, that's kind of like a cup of tea to me. Now, let's make it all savvy to focus on the story. The story of what it all started is that from the continuation of their adventures, they have fought the first few villains of the first season. They fought Gunnar the Conqueror, Professor Zane, who is the creator of the Fuzzballs, although Gunnar led those robot Vikings, Black Velvet, who experienced isolation with the help of her Shadowborgs, Weathervane, Dr. Dare, Ringmaster, Otto the Odd, Massive, Drake Cipher, and Timeskip, Mastermind, and Optimatus, who was actually Zardabia's long-lost brother. However, in the second season, as the story continues, Ace then teams up with his brand new best friend, who appears to be General Deuce. Even though back on Frelling, right after Optimatus was exiled to an imprisonment after his face got disfigured, a la Two-Face, Deuce was one of the most powerful generals who's refused to place all of Frelling under his command. When he left, he later returned to Acmetropolis looking for a Quasar train, which was the last train that was to leave during the fall of Frelling, a la fall of Saigon, but in space. It's sort of like a huge insult to the incident that happened in 1975. However, the train was full of cargo, and it could make a man-king for themselves. But the train was disconnected by Ace, in what Deuce disappeared into a wormhole created by the train with the engine, a la Back to the Future. However, during their next few adventures, they had to confront Adolfo, Biotech Parasite, Queen Athena, Brutus Belanda, and Rupus Oberon. And the most funniest thing, there were a few returning characters that were involved, who originally appeared in the cartoon show, like Yosemite Sam became Future Sam, Pepe Le Pew became Pierre Le Pew. We also had Golop, and also Sylvester, who was Sylvester, Queen Granicus, who was Granny, Sagittarius Stomper, Electro J Fudd, originally called Elmer the Fudd, and Melvin the Martian, who is actually the son of Marvin the Martian. Although we had Pig the Pig, the son of Porky Pig, and Stony and Bugsy. However, specifically because of Speedy Gonzales being noticeably absent from appearing in the series, as well as Foghorn Leghorn, who never showed up in this cartoon, in an outtake continuity, it gets really worse when Deuce frees Optimatus with the help of an army of robots. This time, he helps Rupert Oberon to team up with them to take over Plague Blank in a coup d'etat master plan. They plan to use a wormhole generator to take over the universe, a la Spider-Verse. But Tweetums contacts everyone for his help in what he invades capture long enough for the Loonatics to get to the planet and provide help with the help of Sylvester. Since then, Sylvester becomes the seventh lunatic for some reason, receives a message containing the clues on the whereabouts of Tweetums' turf. This time, Sylv teams up with the lunatics, seeking where Tweetums is. But when Deuce and Optimus began their plans to conquer the universe, it backfires when Deuce betrays Optimatus, who joins up with Zardabia as an act of revenge against Deuce, and with the help of Sylph and his lunatics. But during the final battle between Deuce and Ace, Ace vanquishes Deuce to another universe, and a reformed Optimatus leaves his sister to rule Plague Frelin together. In the end, they realise they've graduated from merely protecting Agmetropolis, and now the protectors of the entire universe. And his team decides to relocate their headquarters to Plague Blank, allowing them they can spend their time instantly reaching any troubled spot anywhere in space. All I can say is the ending is terrible. As I know the 2D and 3D animations of the show look a bit atrocious, even by 2005 standards. And also, we could not forget that even Peter Jackson's King Kong, which was another thing that came out in 2005, actually had better CGI animations for the King Kong, and a bunch of dinosaurs were involved in it. Thanks to the nice, fully created special effects and graphics, it was based on that unproduced 1996 script that was the original version of King Kong. It was very different, but it got tossed into becoming The Mummy back in 1999, which stars Brendan Fraser. Yeah, as I noticed that this thing isn't all that good, I might give this cartoon like a solidly ridiculous 5.2 out of 10. It's quite divisive, but you better have to stay away from it. So, it may be post-apocalyptic. It was cut short from 26 episodes on a span of 2 seasons, just like its previous series, Dark Soldiers, which ran for 39 episodes on 3 seasons from 2003 to 2005, but that was on my 4th birthday. And also Baby Looney Tunes ran from 2001, to 2006 in the UK. This one ran from 2002 to 2005 in the USA. That applies to Bugs and Daffy and Sylvester and Tweety. They both debuted from 1985 and ended between 1988 and 2002, while Titan Avengers ran for 5 years from 1990 to 1985. After that, the Loonatics brand was retired and they brought it back with the Looney Tunes show and also new Looney Tunes and Looney Tunes cartoons. And, as I noticed that ever since I loved the original Space Jam movie, that I kinda enjoyed the original movie itself. Specifically because I know I saw Space Jam 2 years ago in 2020, just before the ill-fated Space Jam 2 came out. It was kind of great to fully enjoy that. I enjoyed the chemistry between Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny, and then Jordan would help his friends save his career and take down the monsters, and Danny DeVito himself as Swathammer, Magnum Dung, and its ill-fated sequel, which was Space Jam 2, A New Legacy. It just bombed at the box office because I found it a bit too awful that I decided not to watch this movie specifically because they got rid of Pepe Le Pew, like the way they got rid of Speedy Gonzales in Tiny Toon Adventures. Yeah, as I know, this movie was about product placement, and product placement is one of my biggest weaknesses. I could ever stop myself from doing this. I couldn't stand product placement. And there was this one Easter egg when both Granny and Speedy were referencing the Matrix, which foreshadows the Matrix Resurrections. As I know I hate the Matrix, which means it's not my cup of tea that I'm not a Matrix fan, because it's just a sci-fi, game-changing, but influentially dumb movie that I don't like. You got to respect my opinion, everyone. As I know I just don't care for this actor of mine being related to be called as Keanu Reeves. I'm not going to see John Wick Chapter 4, that's it. But, with that out of the way, this franchise, Bernard's Looney Tunes, was pretty much beaten to the dust. It feels like they ran out of ideas, and all they have to do is do nothing but spend their lives being miserable. And you know what they say? I could not handle a chance of product placement. So I'm scramming myself out of here.